Today on Summer Under the Stars, it was Anne Harding Day, which meant lots of 1930s films. And it meant for me catching up on two films from leading men that I really love. The first one was 1929's Condemned. This was one of the films for which Ronald Colman was nominated for Best Actor the first time he was nominated. It was the back when you could get nominated for multiple roles. So he was nominated for both this and Bulldog Drummond. I must say I enjoyed this film a lot more than Bulldog Drummond. Um, Basically, the plot is that oh, there's a silent version. Whoa. Okay. Anyways, I watched the talkie version, and Ronald Colman is a criminal in Devil's Island, and Anne Harding is the wife of the um, warden. He thinks that it is not great that his wife is doing all his chores and he's such a big man, then he should have a servant. So he decides to have one of the criminals be his servant, and for some unknown reason chooses the most beautiful man of all of the criminals because it's Ronald Colman. Ronald Colman begins to fall in love with Anne Harding after she shows him a lot of kindness. He even buys her a monkey. It's a very romantic moment. When the warden starts to hear gossip, he confronts his wife and Colman and has Colman sent to, what's it called? Solitary confinement, at which time the two decide they need to run away together. There is moments of comedy, moments of romance, moments of adventure, just a whole lot of some moments of real true horror with the people that are in solitary confinement. There's just a lot of interesting things going on in this film. Colman and Harding have great chemistry. I'm not always a big Harding fan, but I thought she was great in this. And Louis Wolheim was in it, and he's got one of those faces that, like, if you know that face, you know that face. So it's always good to see him. It was shot by Greg Toland, and cinematography is beautiful. Ronald Colman is just absolutely gorgeous in this film. There are so many moments that are like close-ups of his face that I'm just like, how are you so pretty? How is he so pretty? How is this allowed? And I'm so glad that he went into acting because he's so beautiful that, like, if he wasn't an actor, it would be a waste for the whole world. So I definitely recommend trying to find this film. He's beautiful and he's great. And Ronald Colman. That's all I have to say. So the next film I watched was 1935's Biography of a Bachelor Girl. This is Anne Harding playing against type. She is a bohemian artist who has a lot of lovers. Robert Montgomery is an editor who wants to pay her to write her memoirs. And Edward Everett Horton plays her first love from her hometown in Knoxville, Tennessee, who is now about to run for Senate. And Una Merkel plays Edward Everett Horton's fiance. This was my 43rd Robert Montgomery film. I've actually seen more Robert Montgomery films than Cary Grant films, which is strange because Cary Grant is like the greatest of all time and everything. I just really love Robert Montgomery. I love how ridiculous he is, and especially in the 30s films. Ridiculous meaning in a term of endearment, because he makes these faces that I'm like, you know, you're making that face right now, and it does a lot of things for me. He knows it. That's why he's doing the face. This was written by Anita Loos. It was based on a play that was very racy, and they had to clean it up a lot. And the whole play is about sex. Unfortunately, this film is from 1935, so it's a post-code film, so they had to really clean it up. And it's not as racy anymore, and I wish this film had been made when it could have been as racy as it really needs to be, because she's a little flighty, but she's definitely not like the oozing sex that she should be based on what you're told her life story is. So like a lot of the comedy is supposed to come from, you know, her being so racy, and yet she's not really allowed to be very racy because it's 1935. And really, Una Merkel the fiance of this would-be senator is way racier and way more modern than Anne Harding's character. That said, I thought Robert Montgomery was fantastic in this film. Edward Arnold has a nice small role. It's just really well done. Shot by the other great black and white cinematographer of the era, James Wong Howe. I kind of wish, like, we'd do like a James Wong Howe retrospective and just like see his film or his cinematography throughout the years because he's just so great. I wish this was a pre-code film because it would have been so racy and so wonderful. There's a lot of weird stuff about communism and unionizing in this. It gets really dark in the middle a little bit with some of Robert Montgomery's character's backstory that I was like, was that what? So that was a little strange. There were some things about the way politicians are chosen and the kind of shitty way in which American democracy is done by false mediocrity that was pretty good. I was like, this holds. Idiots get elected every day. So there's some timeless commentary about the American political system in this film. It's directed by Edward H. Griffith and it's from 1935. May or may not be available on Warren Archive Collection. I'm not sure, but it's MGM, so maybe. I recommend both these films, not necessarily for Anne Harding. She's okay, but really, I recommend these films for Ronald Colman and Robert Montgomery. They're both fantastic. And I have a couple more Anne Harding films that I'm going to try to get in before I go out of town on vacation. Not vacation, but out of town on work. But I also have some Cary Grant films that I need to try to get shoved in here too. So we'll see. I think Robert Montgomery may have made more films than Cary Grant too. So like if I ever finish Robert Montgomery's filmography, that'll have to be more than Cary Grant. I don't actually know. I'm gonna look this up. Just love him. Try to not look at his politics because it ruins everything, and I can't do that. Yes. So Condemned, 1929, not a silent film. Biography of a Bachelor Girl, 1935, not a pre-code. Both films are great. I liked Condemned a lot. Have a good night.